Hi, I'm Mike Tenney, host of Pop Culture Catechism on Awaken Catholic, and this is Awaken the Word, a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said, therefore, "What is the kingdom of God like, and to what should I compare it? It is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in the garden. It grew and became a tree, and the birds of the air made nests in its branches." And again he said, "To what should I compare the kingdom of God? It is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened." In today's gospel, we get 2 of Jesus' most famous parables back to back, the parable of the mustard seed and the parable of the yeast. And it's all about teaching us what is the kingdom of God. Now, the kingdom of God, we often think is just like, oh, that's where you go when you die. The kingdom of heaven, sometimes it's called in the Gospel of Matthew. So we die and then we go to the kingdom of heaven. And that's kind of right, but it's not the whole picture. When Jesus describes the kingdom of God, it is where God reigns. In fact, in Spanish, it's the kingdom is el reino. I know my Spanish is pretty bad, so I'm probably mispronouncing that. But it's the reign of God. It's where God is in charge. And so God is in charge in heaven, and that is where we'll go when we die, God willing. But God also came to make his will done on earth as it is in heaven, as he tells us in the Lord's Prayer. And so he's saying, this is what it's going to look like, the kingdom of God. It's going to start real small like a mustard seed, and it's going to grow, and it's going to take over everything. That's one thing, is when you're working for the kingdom of God, it can sometimes seem like the world is huge and out there, and it's kind of impossible because we're just this little tiny mustard seed. We're just this little bit of yeast. But with God, small things can make a big difference. The second thing we learned from this is that it kind of wrecks everything. Like, what do you call something that is in a garden and then it takes over everything? You call that a weed. Like, a mustard seed is kind of like a weed, and you don't plant weeds, and you definitely don't want birds in your garden. So Jesus is kind of saying, like, this kingdom of God, it's going to break some eggs. It's going to mess some things up. It's going to kind of change the world and kind of ruin everything in some ways. It's really going to upset some things. The third thing he's telling us, especially in this parable of the yeast, is that it's going to take work. If you've ever put yeast into bread, one of the things you have to do is you have to work it in. You have to knead it, and then you got to wait, and then you got to knead it, and then you got to wait. It's something that takes patience. It's something that takes work. When Jesus came, he didn't just say, all right, here I am, I fixed everything. He came to inaugurate a new way of living so we can live heavenly lives in the here and now. That can be hard, but this is why Jesus starts us. When he's talking about the kingdom of God, he starts us in prayer. We ask every day, Lord, thy will be done on earth as it already is in heaven. And then we can have the faith and the encouragement to start with these small acts, to be that small mustard seed, even when it seems like we're just this tiniest of seeds. By the grace of God, our faith in our church, in this kingdom of God, can become the biggest in the garden, a place where people can come and rest. We can change the whole batch of dough with just a little bit of yeast. Lord, by your grace, may we be that mustard seed. May we be that yeast.